All right. Ever heard that saying, rich as Croesus?
Of course. It's practically a proverb at this point.
Well, today we're diving deep into the story of the man who inspired it, King Croesus of Lydia.
This isn't just some tale about piles of gold, though, is it?
Definitely not. We're talking power, ambition, those mysterious oracles.
And of course, that age-old question of what truly makes a life fortunate.
To really untangle fact from fiction, we're going deep on an episode of the Stuff You Missed in History Class podcast about Croesus.
Sounds like a plan. What exactly are we hoping to find out about Croesus?
We want to understand the real man, not just the caricature of wealth. We'll see how Lydia rose and fell, explore Croesus's personality.
Right, because there's always more to these historical figures than meets the eye.
Exactly. And those oracles, how did they shape his decisions? Did they lead him astray? All that and more.
Lots to unpack. So before we get to Croesus himself, remind me where Lydia was and why it was so powerful.
Okay, so picture modern-day Turkey, Western Anatolia to be precise.
Okay, got it.
That's where Lydia was. It rose to prominence after another empire, the Phrygians, bit the dust around 700 BCE.
They stepped right into that power vacuum.
Yep, established a new dynasty, made Sardis their capital.
Classic power move.
But Lydia was more than just geographically lucky. They had serious economic muscle. They were innovators.
Like what?
Get this, they were one of the first civilizations to mint coins.
Whoa, hold up. They invented money.
You got it.
Wow, before that it was all bartering, right?
Exactly, much less efficient. Lydia's coinage changed everything. Trade became much smoother.
It's like they opened the door to a global marketplace.
And they didn't stop there. They also established permanent retail shops.
Dedicated spaces for buying and selling, so like the first department stores.
Kinda. I bet those ancient Lydians were pretty proud of themselves.
I can picture them browsing, coins jingling, haggling over prices.
A bustling economy for sure. So all this was before Croesus came along.
Yes, Croesus inherited a booming kingdom when he took over in 560 BCE. He was just 35.
And a prince, so born into wealth and power. But I'm guessing being king wasn't all smooth sailing.
Yeah, right. Croesus is a fascinating bundle of contradictions. A powerful conqueror, he expanded Lydia's territory quite ruthlessly.
A real force to be reckoned with.
But he also suffered deep personal loss. The death of his son, Aetus, hit him hard.
It's strange to imagine a king known for his might wrestling with such profound grief.
And this complexity shows up in his obsession with oracles. He was always seeking guidance from prophecies, trying to peek into the future.
The oracles, always so mysterious and open to interpretation. Why was he so drawn to them?
According to Herodotus, our main source for this period, Croesus was determined to find the most accurate oracle out there. He even devised a test for them.
A test? How did that work?
He sent messengers to various oracles around the ancient world
Okay.
with these very specific instructions. Wait 100 days after leaving Sardis, then ask each oracle what Croesus was doing at that exact moment.
Clever. A real way to see if they had true foresight. Did any of them pass?
The messenger who went to Delphi, to the Temple of Apollo, came back with a very specific and strange answer. The oracle claimed to smell a tortoise and a lamb being cooked together in a bronze cauldron.
A tortoise and a lamb. Not your typical stew. Was this some sort of riddle?
Nope. Turns out Croesus had deliberately concocted this bizarre dish. He figured no oracle could possibly predict such a thing.
Talk about going above and beyond to test the system.
Right. So the Delphic oracle nailed it, it seems. There's mention of another oracle at the Temple of Amphiaraus also giving a true answer.
Though what that answer was, nobody knows.
Right, lost to history. But from that moment on, Croesus was all in on Delphi. He showered the temple with gifts and sacrifices.
Like he was trying to stay on their good side. But what kind of advice was he seeking? What were his ambitions?
Well, Croesus definitely had expansion on his mind. He'd already subdued various Greek city-states.
Ambitious indeed.
But a new power was on the rise, the Persian Empire, led by Cyrus the Great. This posed a whole new level of challenge.
A clash of titans. Croesus with all his wealth against Cyrus and his expanding empire. How did he prepare for that?
He knew he needed allies, so he struck a pact with Amasis, the Egyptian king. Also tried to get the Spartans on his side.
The Spartans, legendary warriors.
But Croesus was not known for his patience.
So, a bit impulsive, maybe?
You could say that. And that impulsiveness might have contributed to his downfall. See, the oracle warned him about crossing a river and destroying a great empire.
Oh, doesn't sound good.
But Croesus decided to invade Cappadocia, which was controlled by Persia. And to get there, he had to cross a river.
So did crossing that river lead to Croesus's downfall, just like the oracle hinted?
It wasn't quite that simple. The battle at a place called Praeteria ended in a stalemate. No clear winner.
What happened next?
Croesus decided to retreat back to Sardis, regroup, get those allies in position, and try again in the spring.
A tactical retreat makes sense.
Right, back to the safety and luxury of his capital. But he made a crucial miscalculation.
What was that?
Cyrus and those Persians, they didn't just sit around waiting. They followed Croesus back to Sardis and launched a surprise attack.
Wow, that's bold. Sardis was supposed to be impenetrable.
It was quite a shock, and here's where things get interesting. Cyrus had a secret weapon up his sleeve.
Camels.
Camels. I don't get it. What were camels going to do against a whole army?
Think psychological warfare. Horses, especially war horses, were not used to the sight and smell of camel.
Ah, so they freaked out.
Big time. They panicked. The Lydian cavalry was thrown into chaos. It gave the Persians a huge advantage.
Clever. So what became of Croesus as his city was falling?
Well, here's where history gets a bit hazy. We have multiple versions of what happened to him next.
Multiple endings. Intriguing. Lay it on me.
One popular version, especially in Greek plays and poems, is that Croesus, facing total defeat, decided to go out in a blaze of glory.
Dramatic.
Right. He built a giant funeral pyre, was going to burn himself alive along with his family.
Oh my. But just as the flames were about to engulf them, the god Apollo swoops in, rescues Croesus, and whisks him off to some mythical land.
Talk about a last-minute save. Do historians actually buy that story?
Most think it's more of a symbolic tale, emphasizing the fickleness of fate and the dangers of hubris.
Okay, so not a literal account. What are the other possibilities?
There's another version where Croesus is captured but then becomes an advisor to Cyrus.
A total reversal. From enemy to advisor, that's wild.
It's an interesting twist, but then some sources simply say he was killed after Sardis fell, a more straightforward ending.
So much mystery surrounding his final days. But there's another layer to this story, right? Something about a wise man named Solon.
Ah, yes, the tale of Croesus and Solon. This gets to the heart of why we're doing this deep dive. The true meaning of wealth, happiness, a good life.
Before we get to that, let's recap what we know about Croesus so far. Inherited a powerful kingdom, expanded it through conquest, relied on oracles, then bam, defeated by a more cunning adversary.
It really highlights how fragile power and wealth can be, even when combined with a desire for knowledge.
Right, back to Solon. Who was this guy, and how did he end up giving advice to Croesus?
Solon was an Athenian statesman known for his wisdom and his role in shaping democracy in Athens. Lived about a century before Croesus.
So, a legendary figure even back then. How did they meet?
Herodotus says Solon was on a grand tour, traveling the world, learning from different cultures. He was like an ancient philosopher on a research trip.
And naturally, he had to visit the richest king around.
Of course. So picture this. Croesus gives Solon this grand tour of his palace, showing off all his treasures, his lavish lifestyle, dripping with gold and jewels.
He was probably expecting Solon to be blown away, right? Like, look at all this wealth. I must be the happiest man alive.
Exactly. But Solon's reaction was not what Croesus expected. After the tour, Croesus, feeling pretty pleased with himself, asks Solon, "Who is the most fortunate man you have ever met?"
What did Solon say? Did he stroke Croesus' ego?
Nope. He named an ordinary Athenian citizen, a man named Tellus, as the most fortunate person he'd ever encountered.
Wait, what? Who was this Tellus guy? What made him so special?
Tellus wasn't rich or famous. He had a simple life, but he had something Croesus didn't. A loving family, healthy children, and the respect of his community. And he died a hero's death defending his city.
Wow, talk about a contrast. Croesus, surrounded by luxury, being told that true fortune is about family, community, a noble end.
Croesus was definitely taken aback. Trying to salvage at least a second-place ranking, he asks Solon, "Okay, fine, if not me, then who is the second most fortunate?"
I can imagine his disappointment.
But once again, Solon throws him a curveball. He names two more ordinary men, Cleobus and Biton, brothers famous for their strength and their devotion to their mother.
More regular folks. What was so special about them?
The story goes that they once pulled their mother's cart for miles to a religious festival, all because the oxen weren't available.
A grand gesture, going above and beyond for mom.
Right. It was seen as the ultimate act of filial piety.
So what happened to them?
Well, after that feat, their mother prayed to the goddess Hera, asking her to grant them the greatest blessing possible. And that very night, the brothers died peacefully in their sleep.
Oh, that's both beautiful and sad. They achieved true happiness, and then we're spared from future suffering.
Exactly. So finally, Solon explains his thinking to Croesus. True happiness, he says, can't be measured by wealth or worldly success. It's about a virtuous life, love, family, community.
He was basically challenging Croesus's whole worldview.
You got it. And Solon's main point was this. No one can be considered truly fortunate until they've lived a full life, experienced both the good and the bad.
It's about the whole journey, not just the shiny stuff you collect along the way.
Precisely. And that brings us to Solon's most famous line, "Count no man happy until his death."
Powerful stuff. Fate is unpredictable. Happiness is a long game, not a snapshot. It's about the whole picture.
That's the core of Solon's wisdom. And this story, whether it actually happened this way or not, reminds us that possessions and achievements are fleeting. True happiness is about living a meaningful life, full of purpose and connection.
So Croesus, the king of bling, got a lesson in the real meaning of happiness from a guy who valued simple living.
And the irony is, Croesus's life ended up reflecting Solon's wisdom. He lost his kingdom, his wealth vanished, his fate is a mystery.
It makes you wonder, now as his kingdom was crumbling, did Croesus think back to what Solon had said?
Yeah, did those simple truths about life and happiness offer him any comfort as he faced his downfall?
Maybe losing everything forced him to really grapple with those deeper questions.
That's an interesting thought. And it speaks to why Croesus's story still resonates with us today. It's not just ancient history, it's a reflection of our own hopes and fears.
In a way, we're all searching for our own version of fortune, right? Whether it's financial security or a loving family or a sense of purpose.
Definitely. And Croesus's story is a powerful reminder that that journey can be full of twists and turns. There will be highs and lows, moments of clarity and moments of doubt.
And often, it's those moments of failure when our world comes crashing down that teach us the most.
It's when we're most vulnerable that we're forced to re-examine what truly matters, what really gives our lives meaning.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into Croesus, his riches, the oracles, his downfall, what are some of the key takeaways? What can we learn from this ancient king and his encounters with fate and wisdom?
I think one of the biggest lessons is that material wealth, worldly power, they're incredibly fleeting.
Like building your house on shifting sand.
Exactly. That's why it's so vital to cultivate those inner qualities that no one can take away. Wisdom, compassion, resilience, a strong sense of purpose, and a genuine appreciation for the simple joys.
Those are the real treasures, the ones that stay with us and shape our legacy long after the gold has tarnished and the empires have fallen.
I think that's a perfect way to put it.
And on that note, a huge thank you to you for joining us on this exploration of history, myth, and the timeless human search for happiness.
We hope this deep dive has given you something to think about, sparked your curiosity, maybe even offered some new insights.
If you're eager for more thought-provoking discussions, be sure to subscribe to The Deep Dive for more deep dives into fascinating subjects.
And until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, keep seeking those deeper truths that enrich our understanding of the world and ourselves.
We'll see you then.